I yield to temptation. I can no more resist an audiobook sale than I can resist a digital book sale or a print book sale. Hello, welcome to my channel. Another bibliophile reads. My name is Greg, and once a year or so, Audible has a catalog-wide sale of all their audiobooks, up to 85% off every title in their catalog. And some of these deals are so good, I just have to buy a lot of audiobooks. I am already a member. I belong to their Platinum plan, which gives me 24 credits per year for about $225 per year. That's a little bit less than $10 per book. I still have 14 credits available as of April 2nd, 2026, but this sale on their catalog is just too good to resist. I have to stock up on some audiobooks for later this year and maybe into 2027. So, by the time this video goes up, the sale probably will be over. I may be able to get it up just in its last days. So if you are a fan of audiobooks and the sale is still going on, head on over to Audible and get yourself some great titles, some of them really rather cheaply. So what titles did I get on this sale? Bomber by Len Deighton, narrated by Richard Burnup. This novel was originally published in 1970, and the audiobook is 21 hours and 25 minutes long. Len Deighton, one of the masters of 20th century espionage fiction, combines his expertise as both historian and novelist in Bomber, the classic World War II novel that relates in devastating detail the 24-hour story of an Allied bombing raid. Bomber is a masterful, gripping minute-by-minute account of what occurs over the next 24 hours, told through the eyes of the protagonist on all sides and astonishingly precise in its descriptions of planes, weapons, and behind-the-scenes war strategy. This is Len Deighton at his best, an unforgettable portrait of war both in the air and on the ground. There is one curious note of history. This story takes place on June 31st. Think about that. I have read a few Len Deighton novels before, especially some of his espionage novels, and I'm really looking forward to this story of World War II bombers. The Spy Who Came In From the Cold by Jean Le Carre, narrated by Simon Vance. This novel was originally published in 1963, and the audiobook is 6 hours and 53 minutes long. This is the third book in the George Smiley series. You do not have to read the first two George Smiley books to enjoy The Spy Who Came In From the Cold. Actually, this novel is one of my favorite all-time novels. I have read the print edition. I have read the digital edition. I have listened to this audiobook before on cassette tape, and I took it out from the library, and that was maybe 20 years ago. But the sale of this book was $2.05, if I am not mistaken, and I just had to grab it. It is one of my favorite books. It might be the best spy novel of all time. It's the early 1960s, and the newly built Berlin Wall looms large. British intelligence officer Alec Lamus, caught in its shadow, feels the chill all too keenly. The preceding years have seen nearly every member of his Berlin spy network either murdered or captured. To him, the prospect of a desk job feels more like solace than purgatory. When he's summoned to London by Control, it seems as though he's finally being called home. I will not tell you more of the plot other than it is absolutely fantastic. Again, I'll say this. This is one of my favorite novels of all time. The Fungus by Harry Adam Knight, narrated by Ian Pringle. The Fungus was originally published in 1985. It is 6 hours and 18 minutes long. When a brilliant scientist seeking to solve the problem of world hunger tries to create giant mushrooms through genetic manipulation, what could possibly go wrong? The mutated spores escape the lab and spread all across England. Toadstools grow to 20 feet tall, and a case of athlete's foot can mean a grisly and horrible death. But those who die quickly are the lucky ones. Who survive infection by the fungus will be transformed into something unthinkably monstrous. With a perfect mixture of nightmarish horror and black humor, Harry Adam Knight's cult classic, The Fungus, will grow on you. Now, I bought this on a whim just for enjoyment as mind candy. I love a good old horror novel from the 70s, or in this case, the 80s, because they're just mind candy. And this should be quite an enjoyable little horror novel. Later in the year, I'm going to be beginning a study of world religions. I'm going to be studying Hinduism, Buddhism, Judaism, Christianity, and Islam. I intend to read some of the sacred texts from each religion and then we'll work on a piece of fiction to that religion. I will, of course, be starting with Hinduism, and I will be reading or rereading the Bhagavad Gita. But finding a fictional work to go with Hinduism has proven to be a little difficult. So I'm going with the Ramayana, a new retelling of Vikmani's ancient epic, complete and comprehensive, translated by Linda Eugenes and Kumada Reddy. This audiobook will be narrated by Deepti Gupta. The Ramayana was originally written somewhere between the 8th and 4th century BCE, and this audiobook is 16 hours long. A delightfully straightforward and lyrical retelling of the ancient Indian epic of loyalty, betrayal, redemption, and insight into true nature of life, one of history's most sacred ethical works, rendered with completeness and startling accuracy for the modern listener. Here is one of the world's most hallowed works of sacred literature, the grand sweeping epic of the divine bowman and warrior Rama and his struggles with evil, power, duplicity, and avarice. The Ramayana is one of the foundations of world literature and one of humanity's most ancient and treasured ethical and spiritual works. I also have the print edition, and I will be listening to the audiobook while reading along with this text. Being in Time by Martin Heidegger, narrated by Martin Swain. Being in Time was originally published in German in 1927. The audiobook is 23 hours and 18 minutes long. Being in Time was published during the Weimar period in Germany, a time of political, social, and economic turmoil. Heidegger himself did not escape the pressures, and his nationalism and undeniable anti-Semitism in the following decades cast a shadow over the man, but not the work. Being in Time is not colored by expressions of his later views, unlike other writings, and remains an outstanding document. I also have the print edition, and I will be listening and reading along to the audiobook. The Audible also has a PDF download which will match the audiobook tracks to the page in this edition. I am sure that will be very helpful, and this is going to be an extremely difficult read. Next, I purchased 4 audiobooks by Thomas Mann. They are the collection Joseph and His Brothers. I do intend to read the book while listening to the audiobook. Published over a 10-year period between 1933 and 1943, Thomas Mann's Joseph and His Brothers is an epic four-part novel that works as a retelling of the chapters 21 to 30 of the book of Genesis, described as a mythological novel. It took Mann over 16 years to write the novel and was considered by the writer as his greatest ever literary achievement. Let me tell you a little bit about the 4 volumes. Number 1, The Tales of Jacob, narrated by Mark Eslav. In the first volume, Mann begins with a meditative prelude named Descent into Hell, which contextualizes the story against a variety of historical, mythological, and historical contexts, before moving on to the story of Joseph's father, Jacob. The following chapters follow Jacob as we learn of him stealing his brother's birthright before fleeing to his uncle Laban and later marriages to Rachel and Leah. Deploying Mann's signature capacity for incredible and often mesmerizing detail, Joseph and His Brothers begins Deploying Mann's signature capacity for incredible, often mesmerizing detail, Joseph and His Brothers brings to life a world of mythology and legend, set within the ancient kingdoms of Egypt, Mesopotamia, and Palestine. The result is an immersive, awe-inspiring work of psychological depth, one that is replete with historical detail, ironic humor, and breathtaking grandeur. These translations of Joseph and His Brother are based on the John E. Woods definitive English translation. Book number 2, Young Joseph. In this second volume, Mann shifts his focus to Joseph's formative years, moving towards the novel's ultimate conclusion where he is imprisoned by his brothers and sold into slavery. Book number 3, Joseph in Egypt. In this third volume of Thomas Mann's monumental retelling of the biblical story, Joseph in Egypt follows Joseph after he is sold by his jealous brothers to the Islamite traders. They bring him to Egypt, where he is eventually purchased by Potiphar. Joseph's intelligence, charisma, and integrity soon earn him Potiphar's trust, and he rises to become the overseer of Potiphar's household. However, trouble arises when Potiphar's wife becomes infatuated with Joseph. After he repeatedly rejects her advances, she falsely accuses him of attempting to seduce her. As a result, Joseph is imprisoned. The novel delves deeply into themes of fate, identity, divine providence, and the blending of mythologies, particularly Egyptian and Hebrew, as Joseph's story moves toward his ultimate rise to power. Book number 4, Joseph the Provider. Mann depicts Joseph's fall into slavery and his rise to be lord over Egypt. Deploying lavish, persuasive detail, Mann conjures for us the world of patriarchs and pharaohs, the ancient civilizations of Egypt, Mesopotamia, and Palestine, and the universal force of human love in all its beauty, desperation, absurdity, and pain. The result is a brilliant amalgam of humor, emotion, psychological insight, and epic grandeur. So that is Joseph and His Brothers by Thomas Mann. If you are careful and watching in some of my other videos, you will notice that 2 of the 5 books of the 5 hardest books that I haven't read yet are included in this purchase from Audible. They're also selling To the Lighthouse by Virginia Woolf. I think I should run over to Audible and buy a few more audiobooks. Of course I have to do that. Why wouldn't I? Thank you so much for watching, and keep on reading or listening to audiobooks.